True.
And Kyle Davies on blue-red tutelage. This is a deck that Michael Majors won a Grand Prix with.
Yep.
Andrew Cuneo bursted it out at the Pro Tour.
Joe, I like you a lot. I'm rooting for Kyle.
I mean, if you're telling me that the way you want to win the game is by sitting there and drawing cards, I'm probably in your camp.
Yeah, I'm rooting for Joe.
You know, blue-red tutelage, that's my kind of deck.
Yeah.
I care about what I'm doing. I ignore you. I do cool things while ignoring you.
I haven't looked all over the Battle for Zendikar spoilers yet. You know, kind of going through them when time allows us to. And of course, we'll be ready for the show in Indianapolis. But I'm curious if this deck got some new cards.
Well, it loses Tormenting Voice.
just a crushing blow to the future of blue-red tutelage. Deck is just going to fold without Tormenting Voice. Here's a windswept heath.
I do have to say, I see people playing Obs Aggro. I was hoping to see some like pet decks come out.
So was I.
So here's what I had built before I playing this, okay? So I had this majoring network thing.
Okay,
and
I like where this is going.
we're just going to sit there and pump majoring network, and eventually we'd have a mind swipe in our hand, and we just have like 20 counters on the majoring network, and then we'd say, play something. And that was the deck.
That's your big plan.
That's my big plan. They won't know it until it's too late. And then I roll the cards, I say, swipe it for 20, and then I just extend a hand.
And that's game.
Yeah.
And there's nothing they can do.
No answers. No answers. It's unbeatable.
They're just dead.
One shot them.
That may be a little too much. But you know what? I can appreciate it.
If you got to do it just once,
okay,
it would be worth it.
Okay, fair enough. Davies has a Jace. Joe has a Fleecemane Lion. Davies with a couple copies of Tormenting Voice in hand, so it looks like that's where he's going to start his turn. He'll discard a Swiftwater Cliffs. It's time to draw 2 cards.
Yeah, I like how he does this actually before activating Jace for the extra information here.
Yeah, also a little closer to flipping Jace as well. Now, he's on the hunt for Sphinx's Tutelage because that's the only way the deck can win. That's the trick with the deck. You know, it's this deck that can only win via tutelage, can't really do anything else.
Yep, you see he picked up a copy of Send to Sleep there.
Now, when it does find Sphinx's Tutelage, it wins the game really fast.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Oh, actually, Tormenting Voice is staying. It's in constant start
here. Oh, it wasn't core set. Well, this deck will just be at the forefront of the format then. It loses nothing.
Practically unbeatable. Can't imagine anyone beating it.
It loses nothing. Anger of the Gods. It loses it. But it's got a replacement for that.
Yeah, it's got
all
Radiant
lined
Flames.
up.
Yeah, okay. All right, here's a Hangerback Walker. Jace is going to go active. Time to draw and discard. Island was the draw here for Davies.
You know, it has been the case, if you look at these decks, Obs on Aggro and Blue-Red Tutelage, that over the last year, Khans of Tarkir really has shaped the format. I mean, Obs on Aggro is not losing very many cards either. It's losing its Fleecemanes, but nearly nothing else.
I believe Perilous Vault, Radiant Fountain was the draw. I'd be a little surprised to find Perilous Vault in this deck list.
Does not, yeah, you're right. He doesn't have a copy of Perilous Vault. Sorry, the deck loses Whelming Wave. There we go. Can't play that in tutelage.
Just the actual crushing blow.
I mean, when you read the deck list, it's like, you know, what real cards does it lose? I'm like, I don't know. What real cards does it really play? Like,
Radiant Fountain can be discarded. Sphinx's Tutelage has finally been found. Tormenting Voice does resolve. A couple copies of Treasure Cruise in hand now as well. Davies underneath a little bit of pressure. Jason's going to flip now.
Right. Excellent. He found a land as well.
He might be discarding a Treasure Cruise. Boy.
Well, he can start sending to sleep. He can start sending Joe's creatures to sleep as early as this turn, if you'd like.
Yep, there's Treasure Cruise. That's going to get discarded, which means Jace will flip. And I think we'll probably see Jace move up to slow something like a Fleecemane Lion down.
Sure. Jace so excellent in this deck.
There was a time when we all thought that Jace wasn't that good. We were unsure, but it's Jace. Of course Jace is good. Jace is never bad besides the Living Guild pack, and that one probably not that bad either. We just probably haven't figured out how to use it yet.
We never figured it out in time.
Yeah.
That was the problem.
There's another Jace. We got one flipped, one unflipped. Pass the turn back over to Lossett. So the trade-off with playing Hangerback Walker in the deck is like Hangerback Walker makes it so that you can play a longer game, and that's exactly what Den Protector allows for too, but you're a little less aggressive. And in this matchup, if you're Joe, you have to be as aggressive as possible.
Yeah, I mean, once this deck gets rolling, there will be enough whelming waves and send to sleeps that you're not going to get damage in at all fast enough.
Like, the difference here between a hangerback walker and a death deal in this matchup is night and day.
Yeah, I mean, this game already, to me, is feeling out of reach for Joe, which it seems strange because the board doesn't look that way. Here's an attack. Be interested to see if these are... I have to mention they're going at Kyle.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get any work done attacking Jace. So many counters.
Well, what Joe can do is he can use Dromoka's commands, if he's very judicious about them, to knock Sphinx's tutelages off the table, and that can buy him a lot of time. Maybe enough time to get the remaining points of damage in.
And Joe having 3 copies of Dromoka's command this weekend. Looks like he's just going to pass the turn back. So over to Davies we're going to go. Bloodstained Mire the draw. Fetch lands in the deck simply to put more cards in the graveyard for Treasure Cruise and other things of that nature.
We already can tutelage plus cruise here.
There's the Mire. I'm going to start by sacrificing that, so Davies will go down to 13.
Yeah, there's a balancing act of how many spells he actually wants to get rid of to his cruise versus cracking fetch lands.
But I feel like this is the turn we're going to see Davies deploy Sphinx's Tutelage and start to get to work on Lossett's library.
Does feel that way. His hand is send to sleep Sphinx's tutelage treasure cruise. Wonder if he needs to hold up send to sleep yet.
I don't, it doesn't feel that way.
I think he has one more turn before he has to do it.
Yeah, before it starts to get relatively real.
Yeah.
There's Tutelage. Could be time to go for a cruise.
That said, I mean, because he has Jason play and can flash back cards like send to sleep, he just has so much time.
Oh, it's great here. He gets to delve away, I think, his entire graveyard. Yeah, so that other Jace that's on the battlefield is going to be active for quite a while.
Excellent. So this is going to get 3 triggers of tutelage if this resolves. So it'll mill at least 6.
Yeah, and I don't think Joe has Dromoka's command. Yep, all right, here we go. So 3 cards drawn. Here's the first one. All right, that's a hit. Let's do it again. Let's do it again.
Yeah, these when you play all gold cards, so you can mill a lot here. So 1 trigger's down, 2 triggers are down. Oh, 1 more, 2 more, 2 more, so 4 hits. So that ended up milling for 14.
Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah, Alzon Aggro gets milled very quickly by Sphinx's tutelage.
Yeah.
Basically, if the 2 cards are not lands or hangerbacks, they share a color.
And Davies has already played his land for the turn. Jace is going to tick up to slow down Fleet's main line a little bit, and I'll just pass the turn back. Joe is going to sacrifice a Windswept Teeth. Go down to 18, get a land out of his deck. And he'll go with a basic forest.
Knows he can survive maybe 2 more of those, and that's it.
Might be time for an Abzan Charm here.
Yeah, and I'll be interested. It's probably Abzan Charm putting counters on his guys. It looks like he's going to do it for life. But I think pumping his team is not unreasonable. I mean, if Kyle has the send to sleeps, which Kyle does, there just isn't much that Joe can do.
I think the reason that Joe has to draw cards there, even though it's not great, is because he has to find Dromoka's command.
Yeah, that's the only card that matters here.
Yep. I think he's just got to get Tutelage off the board. If he's able to do that,
makes sense.
If he's able to do that, he's in good enough shape. But if he can't get off the board, I mean, there's the possibility that Davies can go off so much next turn that he can kill him.
Yeah, I mean, he has a Jace on activation on end step. He has another one during his own turn.
Gets his draw step.
Yeah, he could find a Magmatic Insight, a Treasure Cruise.
He can flash back the Treasure Cruise that's in the graveyard with the Jace. I mean, he can go absolutely nuts next turn. I would not be surprised if he's able to mill Joe out next turn. I think it is very possible. And in the meantime, Joe is attacking for not very much damage. And I believe something's going towards Jace.
Yeah, we'll see. He's got Kyle to 13.
Hangerback's going to try to chip away at Jace a little bit here.
Well, he's got to keep it off the ultimate, right?
In this matchup, yeah.
See if he gets it to 9. It's a big number,
Yeah,
but
he's starting to work his way there.
yeah, he means that 7. That emblem,
Oh, wow, Joe did
Would
draw
all but-
Dromoka's Command.
yeah, all but lock out Joe. All right.
That was actually huge, because now you can make him sacrifice an enchantment and kill Jace. Kill the non-flipped Jace, the actual creature Jace, if he wants. It's actually a pretty
Was
big
interested to see if he was going to do that in response to the... I might have waited until Kyle end step activated the Jace and then done this. You get 1 extra point of damage this way, but you save yourself 1 mil the other way.
draw. Okay.
Okay, looks like it's actually interesting. Okay, he's counter on his guy and sack an enchantment, so he's not going to get rid of the Vryn's Prodigy.
Okay. Hangerback Walker on top here from the Temple. That's going to get scryed to the bottom. The follow-up is Den Protector, pass the turn back.
I like how Joe has switched roles here.
Magmatic Insight was the draw. Going to discard a Temple of Epiphany. So now we go to Davies. Davies will untap. He'll take a draw here. Monastery Siege. That is an enchantment, and it's blue. It's just the wrong one.
But he's got some time. He's got that. Looks like could have a Send to Sleep in his hand. That will buy him turns. That plus Jace with Jace plussing would keep all the damage off the board, but he does need to find Sphinx's Tutelage again. Maybe Magmatic Insight's up to the job.
Again, that's the thing that's difficult about this deck is that it can't win without tutelage. So
Right.
if you lose one, okay, you know, you hope you've drawn some cards while you had it out there, like with the Treasure Cruise and Jace's, so that you can chain into another one. But you can't get the job done with that one. You can stall with cards like Anger of the Gods.
Yep. Kyle's actually did some good sequencing there. He was going to use Magmatic Insight, but then opted to go Jace first because that was the 4th card in his graveyard, and he actually doesn't want the Vryn's Prodigy to flip.
It feels like the weakest card in his hand right now, outside of Lance or Monastery Siege. I'm not sure he has time to do Monastery Siege. I think he might be in the market for just trying to find Anger of the Gods as best he can right now.
Yeah, Monastery Siege does not seem great. He does play 4 copies of Anger of the Gods, so that would certainly be a great card to find.
He does still need to discard from Jace, I believe.
All right.
Now here's Monastery Siege.
Yeah, the draw of Jace was a Flooded Strand, and he used that to replace his Saltwater Cliffs.
Okay. Monster Siege is going to be on cons. A little more card drawing. There's a Temple. Take a look at the top card. Going to leave it on top.
That's concerning.
Yeah.
If you're Joe.
Yeah, I'd be a little
Yeah.
worried. What are you leaving on top in this situation? Probably only Anger of the Gods and Sphinx's Tutelage. I don't know if there's anything else worth keeping up there. We'll find out soon enough, assuming Kyle gets to take another draw step here this game.
And go back over to Joe. It feels like a lot of decisions here are on Kyle's side. Joe's just going full speed ahead.
Yeah, just trying to attack the best that he can. You know, does he want to continue to go after Jace Telepath Unbound? Does he want to go after Kyle's life total? Maybe try to split the difference? You know, those are the kind of questions that he has to answer. He split the difference last turn. He does have Den Protector in hand, which can get back Dromoka's Command again, so that's a pretty good spot to be in. But I think Dromoka's Command now would only kill Monastery Siege and not Sphinx's Tutelage.
Yeah, that's one of the advantages to playing out Monastery Siege. Just gives him insurance against a second Dromoka's Command.
And Jace's going to fall. Maybe. Yep. Down to 2. See what Lossett's up to now. Can play a Morph. That'll be a Den Protector.
Yeah, face down, it can get back Dromoka's Command.
But again, this is the difference between Boswell's take on Abzan aggro and the one that Lossett is playing that has become so popular now.
Right.
Because Boswell's deck is Boon Satyr, Surrak. It's just so much more aggressive. And that aggression in this matchup is so important. And Joe is playing a much more mid-rangey game. You got a Monastery of Siege trigger here. Those were 2 good ones.
And now you were talking about him playing to it. That's a copy of Anger of the Gods. Now, it doesn't answer the Fleece Mane in play anymore, but it gets everything else.
Yep. And Kyle's actually got a pretty good answer for Fleece Mane on the battlefield and just the Jace Telepath Unbound. Just slowing it down so much.
Right.
Up to 3. Joe may have a response.
It's interesting. We'll see if if he's going to do something in response to it.
Looks like he has a question. Does Mr. Lossett?
Your seedings are up on green paper. They are in the corner.
Well, one thing that Kyle has to do is he has to use this Jace and then use his other Jace before casting Anger of the Gods. When he casts it, he's going to want his onboard Jace to flip and turn into a replacement Planeswalker before he casts Anger, if that's his plan for the turn, which I have to imagine it is.
Just wants to get as much as possible with Anger right now.
Right.
No surprise there.
What he can do is he can -2 the Fleece Mane, and then the second Jace can flip and -2 the Fleece Mane again. So it'll be a 0 for the next turn.
So both these players making sure the game state is correct here. Looks like Joe has a little Murderous Cut action here. Yeah, he's got 2 in his main deck this weekend. Okay. So he's got a Murderous Cut Jace. Kind of, I guess, daring Kyle to flip.
Yeah, I guess he determined that he wanted to do this before we were in Kyle's main phase. He wanted to do this during Kyle's upkeep. He didn't want Kyle to get the chance to trigger the Jace.
Sure. So Island will be the draw. Island will be discarded. This is going to flip. Now Davies is going to have to lose one of these Jaces, of course. So he'll lose the old one. New one's got 5 counters.
Right.
All right, so that's all cleared up.
This does mean that Joe took down his Den Protector mana. So if Anger of the Gods happens here, he's not going to get a Dromoka's command back.
And I think it's happening. So here is Anger of the Gods. That'll clear away Hangerback Walker, the Morph, which is Den Protector, the face-up Den Protector. Fleece Mane Lion's still going to be here, as you mentioned, because it's a 4/4. But Kyle has stunted Lissette's offense again, which is all he's trying to do until he finds a copy of Sphinx's Tutelage.
Yeah, he's got another Treasure Cruise at the ready. Monastery Siege in play. Things still feel like they are going Kyle's way. He's going to leave that Anger as the only card in the graveyard.
Able to flash that back with Jace. Here comes Cruz. So it's time to draw 3 more here. Tutelage is 1, Tormenting Voice is 2, Shiv and Reef is 3.
That'll play. Let's refound the Tutelage. So he's just going to throw it right out there.
Well, I'm curious if he's willing to do that.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I think in situations like this, you do open yourself up to getting hit with a discard spell, but in Obs on aggro, you don't find Thoughtseize that much in the main deck. So you might be better off just holding it and trying to do a bunch in one turn.
Right, I mean, if you don't suspect, it depends if you suspect another Dromoka's command. You want to do a bit of a cat and mouse game. He loses 1 trigger by not playing it on his main phase. He won't get to mill off his draw step on the following turn, but that's it. Remember, this Fleece Mane line is a 2/4 at the moment. It has a 1/1 counter on it, but it is not monstrous. That was from a Dromoka's command. So Kyle can still target it with Jace at the moment. But I wonder how much the priority on Joe's side is just getting a monstrosity counter onto Lion anyway.
Well, here's the face down. Monstrosity counter is pretty good on the line right now. It becomes a 5/5.
Can't be sent to sleep.
Can't be targeted by Jace. There's a lot of positives there.
It'll hit in for 2. Kyle's at 9. And that was actually 2 mills that he looked there. The Monastery
Siege too, yeah.
Whelming Wave drawn, however.
I can reset some things. Like it.
Den Protector is in play for Lossett, however. Not sure if Kyle wants to reset that one.
Well, I do like starting here. 6-2, that seems great right now. See how deep Davies wants to go. He can cast Tormenting Voice. See what he wants to discard. Magnetic Insight. Wants to hang on to Whelming Wave and send to sleep. There'll be 2 triggers here. So we get to go again.
1 trigger's done. 4 cards total. 2 triggers done. 6 cards a mill.
Okay.
Discard Insight, drew Fountain Jace. Nothing great there. We have to remember that first Dromoka's command from Joe will hit the siege, not the tutelage.
Siege, in a weird way, providing protection. Very, very strange. There's Radiant Fountain, gain 2 life.
Okay, we'll go to 11. He has not, still has a Jace trigger to use this turn. Has not used it, and
Wow.
he'll pass. I think, yeah, so it looks like he just missed the Jace trigger.
Okay. Den Protector's gonna unmorph.
If there's nothing he wants to flash back, I think rather than cast, yeah, he probably wanted to flash back something like Magmatic Insight.
Basically a freebie.
Yeah.
Flashback Insight has Send to Sleep in hand. You've already got Spell Mastery because this deck always has Spell Mastery.
Well, he'd be fishing for a second land then because he'd have to discard the Radiant Fountains. Maybe that's just too much of a risk.
Sure. Either way, a bit of a hiccup there from Davies. Is that figuring out what he wants to return with a very stocked graveyard? Jamoka's command,
Yeah.
likely
Just keep
the
coming
choice.
back to it, right?
Yeah. It's not really all that surprising. I think it's the best card that he can consistently return.
Yeah, that'll be the one.
Here's Send to Sleep. Before Fleecemane Lion can go monstrous.
Does mean that it's only just going to prevent 1 attack, not 2 attacks worth of damage.
I believe Sansep Citadel the draw here for this set.
You have to imagine that command will happen immediately.
Yep. Got to get one of those enchantments off the battlefield.
Counter on Den Protector.
And there goes the Siege, predictably.
There's an argument for putting a counter on Fleecemane there because then when you Monstrosity Fleecemane, it's a 2-turn clock.
Sure. Attack for 6 and then 5. Or excuse me, 6 and then 6, yeah.
Exactly.
Here's Sorin, -2, Vampire Token on the way. There's the Citadel there for Lossett. I'll pass the turn back, I suppose, hoping not to die.
Yeah, then this is it. Can Kyle kill him this turn? He draws once, just mills 2. Does Jace have a cruise to flash back? I think so. He has a Whelming Wave in hand.
Yeah, I guess we can't forget about the Whelming Wave, which actually does play a pretty big role here as far as buying time.
Kind of, because Joe has 7 mana. If he bounces, if he uses Whelming Wave, Joe can immediately play Den Protector, flip it, and cast her Dromoka's command out of the graveyard.
All right.
So it's not free.
Here's Magmatic Insight. It's been flashed back.
Anger and Roast drawn. There's 1 mill, 2 mills, 4 cards total.
Anger, fine on this board. Roast, fine on this board.
It's not unreasonable to just cast both the red spells.
He can play Anger, kill everything but Fleecemane Lion, roast the Fleecemane Lion, play Jace, pass the turn back.
Yeah.
I think that's a completely reasonable turn. I wouldn't be unhappy with that. There's Anger of the Gods.
Den Protector gone, Vampire gone. I think he's gonna make just that play. Roast the cat.
Yep.
Yep. And play the Jace.
Use all the manas.
Just as you drew it up. All right. So we go back to Joe. He untaps with nothing in play. He drew a Siege Rhino. This matchup's really hard for the Abzan side.
With the way his deck is built this weekend, yes. I think if he was playing Boswell's build of the deck, I think he'd be destroying him.
Yeah, I mean, right, Boswell's list is playing 3/3s for 1, whereas Joe's deck is playing 1/1s for 2.
Yeah.
Hangerback versus Warden in the first tree is night and day.
Yeah. I think this is a matchup that Boswell would love to play against. I think this is a matchup, at least game 1 for Lossett, that he wants no part of. He's doing, very Abzan stuff with Sorin and Siege Rhino and Den Protector and Jamoka's Command, but that stuff is all so slow right now.
Does Kyle mill him out? First draw is Alhammaret's Archive.
Nice.
Yeah, he's going to deploy that immediately. This is if you haven't seen the deck, this is a 1-of in the deck. Doubles his life gain. That part doesn't matter so much, but if you would draw a card except the first one on each of your draw steps, you get 2. That's real good with some of these effects.
What are we flashing back? A cruise? Oh, neat.
So it's draw 6. Be a mill for 12. This Joe should be dying on his upkeep.
Mill for 12 at the minimum.
Right.
Yeah, could be a lot more than that. Yeah, and I think Joe
counts. He has exactly 12 cards in deck.
That is going to do it. Kyle Davies will win game number 1 here over Joe Lossett. Blue-red tutelage up a game here over Abzan Aggro. Now, we take a look at the sideboards here. We're going to start with Joe, and we're going to see if he can make things a little more aggressive. He's got 2 ultimate prices, a Revoke Existence, 2 Tragic Arrogance, 2 Glare of Heresy, 2 Wingmate Rock, 2 Herald of Torment, 2 Thoughtseize, and 2 Duress. So this has got some cards to bring to the table.
Well, we talked about how in that game, it seemed like Joe always wanted another Dromoka's Command. He was just going after Sphinx's tutelages. So what Joe wants is he wants a fast price, and he wants lots of ways to interact with Sphinx's tutelage. So he's got 2 Thoughtseize, 2 Duress, 1 Revoke Existence in the sideboard. Those all answer the tutelage. Imagine he'll use each of them. Outside of that, there's not too much. He doesn't have many. He doesn't have any low-end creatures in the sideboard. Maybe he can get away from some of the Hangerback walkers, maybe replace them with Herald of Torment. Herald's better at dealing damage. That seems reasonable, but those 5 cards, Revoke and the 4 discard spells, that's where he's going to go to.
What do we see for Kyle Davies in his tutelage deck?
So his sideboard consists, he has 3 Annuls, a Disperse, an Encase in Ice, 4 Negates, 4 Fiery Impulses, a Seismic Rupture, and an extra Whelming Wave. The extra Whelming Wave and the Encase in Ice all seem pretty reasonable. But other than that, he's packing things for other matchups. Negates and Fiery Impulses aren't good here.
I don't expect to see a lot of changes, though. Joe does get to bring some nice stuff to the table with those discard spells, so we'll see how things go for him as he'll be on the play here for game number 2. In the meantime, we'll talk about Grand Prix Atlanta, taking place November 13th through the 15th. All the information for that has been released, so we're going to have awesome people there. Commander Superstars is kind of what we're going with as far as the theme is concerned, so you'll find Benny Smith, MJ Scott, the godfather of Commander, Sheldon Menery, along with the Commander versus crew, all there. There'll also be some meet and greets with some players and a lot of awesome events to play in. And of course, the main event, which will be Battle for Zendikar sealed as well. You also get this fantastic playmat here. Battle for Zendikar with the Commander theme, November 13th through the 15th. StarCityGames.com/GP Atlanta. Get signed up today. Find out more information about what looks to be a fantastic tournament going to be taking place right around Thanksgiving this year. We're excited for it. We hope you guys are too. And we'll hope to see you guys November 13th through the 15th in Atlanta, as we do get ready here for game number 2 between Kyle Davies and Joe Lossett. Joe Lossett, he's our lone West Coast guy.
Yeah, 9th on the Players to Watch. We're 9th on the leaderboard right now.
He's traveling everywhere. He wants to go back to the Players Championship. 36 years old from Redlands, California. Won Invitational Top 8 last year during Season 1. 17 Open Series Top 8s, 5 wins. Only 1 of them in Legacy, 4 of them in Standard. We know he is known as a Legacy Specialist with Miracles, but he's gotten the job done in Standard quite a bit here on the Open Series. Former varsity rower in Colorado, a Star Wars fanatic, and like many players in the Open Series, a big StarCraft 2 fan.
Yeah.
And I am also a StarCraft 2 fan. I think they released a trailer for a new expansion for the game recently.
So I'll tell you, when I was in high school, I tried to follow the real-time, the RTS scene, and I was no good at it. I played a lot of StarCraft 1, but never could get into it after that.
Can't click fast enough, can you?
Just not good at doing that many things at once. Kind of like with Magic, I like decks that I like doing one thing really well.
Okay.
And RTS, you're managing a lot of things at once.
Yeah. there's a lot going on.
Micro's tough.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I was never particularly good at StarCraft. I enjoy playing it, even though I wasn't good, and I enjoyed watching it. But to play like the elite players do, and to be able to move around that much and make your brain go that fast, it's kind of crazy to me, actually.
Well, it's interesting. I play the MOBA scene a little bit, but then it's only one guy, and I have to play. That's way easier than 100.
Sure, sure. Okay, that many troops, yeah, kind of difficult. It is a lot of fun to watch, though. It's no surprise that so many people in the Open Series and in Magic in general enjoy that scene. As we are underway here in game number 2, Lossett with a Temple of Malady, Davies with a Shivan Reef. Again, Lossett never going to be off to a blistering start like Boswell's Abzan aggro deck can be. Joe opting for the more controlling build of the deck.
Looks like Fiery Impulse has come in out of the sideboard for Kyle.
A little extra removal.
Along with Negate. So, interesting approach here. Not the one I would expect him to take, but could be powerful depending on the kind of hands that Joe's keeping.
I guess it just makes you wonder what he boarded out to fit those cards in. Temple of 15 put the top card to the bottom there for Davies as we head back Lossett's way. Lossett with a third Temple.
Both players are gearing up for a longer fight here.
There's a Fleecemane Lion. We go back to Davies. Negate the draw.
Second Negate. Okay. So he's definitely in on Negates. Fiery Impulse seems actually more reasonable than I guess I would initially expect here because it's so easy for Kyle to activate it. You look at this here. He can Tormenting Voice. If he wants to play Radiant Fountain, he can, or any land, he can Tormenting Voice, discarding the second Negate, and then Fiery Impulse away the Fleecemane Lion this turn. It'll already be Spell Mastery.
And that problem's just solved.
Yep.
Well, there's Tormenting Voice. Discard the Negate, as you mentioned. Draw 2 cards. Sinks is 2, Liches 1.
There we go.
Island is the second. Spell Mastery has been satisfied for Fiery Impulse.
Yeah, this deck's Spell Mastery is better than any other deck.
Yeah, to say the least.
Look at that.
Super easy. Thoughtseize the draw here for Lossett. I like casting that
Right
one.
on time, too. Right when Kyle picked up the tutelage.
Yeah, and has a Negate that he can't cast. You
Yeah,
see
what a great time for that Thoughtseize.
You see the hand here for Davies. He's got a tutelage, a roast, a Negate, 2 Radiant Fountains, and an Island. I can't imagine tutelage is hanging out much longer.
No, I'll take that. I mean, and that was just a perfect time for Joe. It leaves Davies with a pretty lackluster hand.
Joe not willing to play Den Protector right now. At least it appears that way because of a roast. So I think he's just going to sacrifice this Windswept Heath, get a land, and play Abzan Charm for cards, so it can't be negated.
That seems more likely. Based on the pace that this game appears to be, that it'll be played at, I think Joe wants to try to max value his cards as opposed to getting them out quickly.
Yep, there's Charm. He'll pay 2 life, draw 2 cards. That'll be Lossett's turn.
Enter Mocha's Command among the cards he picked up. This is shaping out to be a very good game for Joe.
Thoughtseize was very timely. Davies' draw has not come together all that well. I mean, the Tormenting Voice Fiery Impulse turn was good.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, his hand didn't have much going on in it. He drew 1 good card. He drew the tutelage. But Thoughtseize was very strong. And one thing we forget in all this, this is our last weekend of Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize has been such a mainstay of Standard for the last 2 years.
I guess it's going away.
Yeah, it's going away.
Yeah. I actually did kind of forget about that. I'm so used to it now.
It's possibly the most powerful card in Standard. Certainly I'd say it's a card that translates to Eternal formats the best.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Like, Thoughtseize is a great Magic card.
I don't think this will surprise you, but once Thoughtseize got reprinted, it just saw play from day one and hasn't gone away, so.
I mean, Abzan aggro has stopped putting it in the main, but yeah, it's
a big jump by those players.
I'll tell you, I am very happy to see Thoughtseize going, because Thoughtseize is like generically good against everything I do, against all my decks.
I think everyone's glad to see it go away.
Yeah.
We could use a break from Thoughtseize, right? We already see it a lot in Modern. We'll see it some in Legacy. And in Standard too, for obvious reasons. So a little break is not bad.
It means you can put Synergy in your deck again. See if they won't just take all your cards.
Here's a Jace. Davies will pass the turn back over to Lossett.
Lossett will have none of that. If he wants to Ultimate Price, he'll risk losing his Den Protector to a Fiery Impulse, which may be fine.
There is Ultimate Price. Well, no punishment, no Fiery Impulse there. And offensive to draw.
And Joe's creatures feel really interchangeable here. He just needs to have creatures. It's the spells that matter.
a way to pressure and drawing the important spells like Thoughtseize and Jamoka's Command. And this is a way to start closing out the game pretty quick. There's Anafenza. Davies going to draw a card to copy a Treasure Cruise.
He does have the one-up Alhammart's Archive in his hand again. And there's potential that he can just play out Archive. Like, if he can play out Archive and Treasure Cruise this turn, he could maybe untap and win. It would be hard, but not impossible.
It would be tough. Taking an entire turn off just to cast the Archive. I guess you get the Treasure Cruise and draw 6, but...
Right. You may not have another line.
Well...
His Archive.
He's going with you. At least on the Archive part.
All right.
Yeah, there are enough cards on there. All right, you cruise, you lose. Maybe you win.
This is drawing 6. That's not bad. Interesting, the card he's choosing to leave is Tormenting Voice. That's definitely speaks toward a combo turn.
All right, 6 cards coming, couple of lands.
Anger, Jace, 4 lands. That was not the 6 he wanted.
I've seen better draw 6s.
Yeah. He's gonna have to discard one. Fortunately, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
He's got plenty to discard.
Couple of lands to discard over there.
A lot of losers.
Den Protector's going to unmorph. For Joe, it's going to return Thoughtseize, which I love this decision.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get a Sphinx's tutelage, right? No.
You would think he'd have one. Yeah.
Good.
Davies will discard a Mountain 7 cards, and going to head back Lissette's way. Lissette will draw. Picked up a copy of Rashasha Death Dealer.
Joe wants to make sure it's a 2-turn clock, and he wants to make sure he doesn't die in the meantime.
Thoughtseize is a great place to start if Joe would like to. It looks like he will. Kyle, you have like 8 Sphinx's tutelage, right? No? You have an Anger of the Gods, a Roast, a Jace, a Negate.
Just got stuff that doesn't do very much at the moment.
Yeah. So with blue-red tutelage, the highs are very high. The lows they're pretty low. If you don't do what you're supposed to do, not great, I would say. We'll see what Davies wants to select here.
Probably Negate.
You think so?
I'm just not, it's like Negate or Roast. You're just not worried about too much at the moment.
Anger I'm not concerned with.
Right.
Jace,
I'm not concerned with Jace either.
Yeah, I'm not terribly concerned with that either. And Joe considering Roast.
Roast is the best at dealing with a creature on the board, but Negate is good because if Kyle draws a tutelage, and then Joe already still has a Dromoka's Command for it, what he would hate to have happen is to have that Dromoka's Command negated.
I think that might be the reason why he selected Negate. Now here's an attack for 8. So Davies is going to fall down to 10. We'll see if Lisette has a follow-up play, because now, of course, he knows about Anger of the Gods, so how much does he want to deploy into that is the question. He does have a Death Dealer to cast.
I mean, he can even Obzon Charm if Kyle goes for an Anger of the Gods.
Ooh, very true. Magmatic Insight was the draw. I guess when you have Dromoka's Command in your hand, too, there's no reason to deploy anything. Like, if you cast Anger, you can Dromoka's Command it, or you can Obzon Charm to give counters. So you're fine with either outcome. You're not worried about Anger of the Gods at all.
Right.
Got a lot of stuff covered here in Kyle's hand.
Kyle has a lot of card draw. That Archive, powerful, but... And if he finds maybe some Send to Sleeps, he could still win from here.
Here's Anger.
That's not going to work.
Not the way that he wants it to. And if you're Kyle in this situation, I think that casting Anger is just wrong from just a game planning sense, because like, if Joe's not deploying any more creature or anything in his hand, and he just saw your hand and took Negate, why do you think that he's willing to, let this be the case?
Yeah.
Like, I just got to see your hand. I got all the information. I get to sculpt my turn. And I'm going to leave you with these 2 burn spells. So, it's just, I just think that trying to go the removal spell route, pretty unlikely.
And Dromoka's Command has the ability to prevent damage from a red source.
Yep.
as well.
So he gets to prevent a red sword. He gets to prevent damage from Anger of the Gods and Roast there.
Right.
Make his creatures larger by giving +1/+1 counters. Now he gets to attack for lethal, and that's why you see Kyle concede the game. So Joe Lossett's going to win game number 2 here over Kyle Davies. Abzan aggro, blue-red tutelage, getting ready for game number 3.
The line that Kyle could take here, and granted this means he has to know what's going on in Joe's hand, is he could try to Magmatic Insight for Send It to Sleep or for Whelming Wave. But then he still has to slog through multiple Dromoka's commands. It's not easy from that point.
No, I'm not saying that if Kyle plays Magmatic Insight, he's locked to win the game or anything. I just think it's a better option once your opponent thought seizes you and they write down the information, they take the time to look over your hand and figure out how the game's going to go, and then they say I'll take negate,
right,
and not your removal spells.
I think having a 1-mana draw 4 in your hand is so powerful that you should just. I believe you want to lead on it because that much extra resource, that much extra information at such a low cost is just. You want to know what those 4 cards are before you plan out your turn. Maybe they're nothing, and then you make the same play, but that's fine.
I agree with you as these two players do get ready here for game number 3. Kyle Davies will be on the play with the tutelage deck. In the meantime, we are going to talk about that brand new invitational token that belongs to Alex Bostecki. He is a Germ token after winning the Season 3 Invitational in a very, very good match between him and Steve Mann in the finals in New Jersey. Bostecki down 2 games, mulliganing the 3rd game, but was able to make the comeback, get the W. He's headed to the Players' Championship, $10,000 richer, of course, as well. But we'll see him at the end of the year. A couple ways to go about getting this token. All Open Series players will get it. All 5K Premier IQ players will get it. And then all orders of StarCityGames.com beginning October 2nd at noon. $5 minimum order. You can do that here at the Open Series, StarCityGames.com, as well on the website. Get the Alex Bostecki token and get ready to watch him battle later this year at the Players' Championship. Yeah,
great finish with Grixis Delver winning the Season 3 Invitational.
I hate that deck.
Grixis Delver?
Yeah, I do. I don't mind saying it. I hate it. I hate it because it's so good.
It's very good.
That's the reason I don't like it. It has all of my least favorite legacy cards because they're all cards that are so good I don't want to play, like Deathrite Shaman and Young Pyromancer and Brainstorm, so that's why I hate it. But I can be reasonable and rational and hate it because all the cards are so good. Yeah, like you and I, we like to play our kind of underpowered legacy decks. So.
Well, yeah. Sometimes, yeah. All right.
I mean, I think eventually we'll come around to playing Delver decks, but.
We're not going to play a Delver deck.
Really?
No, we'll combo. We combo the. No, that's boring.
Never giving in. I love it.
I'm not going to play Delver.
I absolutely love it. Underway here in game number 3. Swiftwater Cliffs there for Kyle. That's why he's at 21. Lossett with a Sandsep Citadel. Both players getting their mana online. I'm hopeful that Kyle has a second land. Okay, there we go. Temple of Epiphany.
He has lands 2 and 3. It looks like he actually gets to have a tutelage in his opener this time.
Going to the top card on top. We'll see if Joe has something like a Thoughtseize or a command. Looks like he's just got a creature to start in Fleece main line. I'll have to take 1 to cast that, so he falls down to 19.
Joe's hand might just be a good curve of creatures, but if that's the case, this tutelage is very scary.
So this is always the interesting thing if you're the tutelage player, because Kyle has 3rd land in Radiant Fountain and can just slam Sphinx's tutelage and then start to go nuts the next turn. But is it worth it to do that when it can just die and then you get no value from the card? I think that's a really hard decision to make.
Well, what value actually exists in the card, right? I mean, so maybe you're giving up 6 points of mill, but that's not what I don't think that's what matters in the matchup.
Okay.
What matters is when you get one and it lands and then you mill their whole deck. So yeah, I'd slam it, unless you have a negate to build toward.
Well, he's going to go with Jace before passing the turn back. Abzan Charm to draw. Lossett does have land over 3, though. It looks like it's going to enter the battlefield tapped. It's a Temple of Silence. Scry, take a look at an ultimate price.
Not typically a good card here, but one he may want. And multiple Anafenzas.
Top card, ultimate price, becomes the bottom card. Gonna let it go.
I believe he has 3, he could even have 3 Anafenzas.
That's a lot of those.
Well, they are legendary, so.
We got Dromoka's command.
Oh.
Yep.
All right. One of them's a Dromoka's command, so that'll fight. Kyle's got to be happy to see that one go.
Yeah, this makes me want to cast Sphinx Tutelage even more now. Monastery Seeds the draw. A little slow to set up.
Well, if he wanted to protect Siege, what he also could do is he could have encased and iced the Fleece main line, as that is an enchantment.
Very true. could still encase right now. He looks like he's going to go with Tormenting Voice, maybe try to find a land. And he did in Mountain, along with the Roast, so.
That's powerful. May just want to roast away the Lion.
They're going to be closing in 30 minutes. Once again, the concession stand.
Yeah.
Norway
Easy.
will be closing in 30 minutes.
There's an argument, actually, to... If he wants to play out tutelage, I still wonder whether he wants to put an Encase and Ice on the battlefield to protect his own tutelage.
But the thing about the tutelage here, you know, every turn that goes by, you're giving Joe another draw step to draw Thoughtseize.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I'm a little scared and duress. I'm a little scared if I'm Kyle in that situation. But that hasn't happened yet. Joe's just deploying Anafenza and passing the turn back. Also, Kyle's life total is quite high. He's at 19 right now. Going to fall down to 18 from the Bloodstained Mire.
And I wonder if he's actually just not going to deploy tutelage until he has Negate. Maybe he just never wants to expose it. If that's true, he might start on something simple like Monastery Siege here.
Well, he's not underneath a terrible amount of pressure.
Nope, just a 4/4. He could lead out on Siege, encase the Anafenza, pass the turn, then tutelage. That may just be what he does. Yeah, Monastery Siege. Really respecting Dromoka's command.
Yep. Sets it on Khans, pass the turn back over to Lossett. Lossett draws the Siege Rhino. Attack step, there's going to be an Encase and Ice, slow down Anafenza. Now there are 2 enchantments out there, so Dromoka's command has gotten really bad. A lot of setup here by Davies, but you got to like where he's at now. Here's Siege Rhino. Davies will fall to 15. Lossett, well, his life total is generally irrelevant in the matchup, though he'll gain 3. There's a Monastery Siege trigger.
2 cards, both lands. But this is a big turn. So now, here's the payoff it looks like you were wanting. He's going to get to Sphinx's tutelage and Treasure Cruise this turn.
Delve away the whole
and
graveyard.
6.
Yeah.
All right, so 3 triggers. So 2 cards. First one, no double. There we go. That's a free one. They match. 2 triggers done. Another extra. 3 triggers done. 10 cards milled in total.
Swiftwater Cliff's going to gain Davies a life. He's going to go up to 16, pass the turn back. I believe he picked up a copy of Tormenting Voice with his Treasure Cruise, so he can start to chain a little bit here.
Yeah, and remember, Kyle has a huge amount of insurance against Dromoka's command here. He has 3 enchantments on the board.
Yeah. He is set up very well against that particular enchantment removal spell. Siege Rhino going to come into the red zone. Davies going to fall down to 12. Keep in mind the clock here for both players.
Yep, that is accurate.
2 minutes, 30 seconds to go. There's a Den Protector face down.
But Kyle doesn't remember, this deck does not need very many turns to mill out its opponent. And now he's got a negate. That's more protection. Mills Joe for 2. Looks like a Tormenting Voice in his hand. This is going to be very strong.
He's starting to get going.
Yeah. Here's Voice, discarding Island. That's going to be 2 more mill triggers. Draws a second copy of Tutelage in addition to what looks to be Send to Sleep. And 4 cards milled for Joe.
Now the question now, if you're Kyle, do you want to deploy second Tutelage, or do you want to leave Send to Sleep plus negate up?
I don't think he goes for second Tutelage.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Seems unlikely.
I don't think so either.
The first one's going to win it already.
And I like just passing the turn back. Joe's draw here is a copy of Sandstep Citadel. Might see Soren here from Joe because he's got to pick up the pace as far as getting the game over with before he gets milled out.
Right.
Or timed out.
I mean, if I'm Joe, I'm concerned that this is my last turn of the game. And I think that bears out through Kyle's hand. Kyle has a second copy of Tutelage. He can play that. He has 2 draw steps off Monastery Siege. If he finds any sort of a draw spell, that's going to start milling at a really fast pace. Joe checking options for his Den Protector. Duress is among them. Kyle's just at the ready with negate, though.
Yeah, and Send to Sleep, too, which is... Send to Sleep is great here. I mean, he's definitely got Spell Mastery. He's going to lock down a couple attacks.
Yeah, not just this turn, next turn as well.
Yep. It's a really good setup. Den Protector's going to unmegamorph, put a counter on that. Joe going to go through the graveyard, looking at Duress.
Duress, yeah. He has to.
He'll flash that back.
Absolutely not.
I'm pretty pro negate here.
Well, if you're not, I'm interested because if you're not negating this, what are you negating?
Sure.
All right, that's fine. He's gonna sit back on a negate. I think he's still in a great spot. So here's 2 draws off the siege. Mills 4. Kyle discards a land. He discards a Sphinx's tutelage. Just no interest. He can activate Sphinx's tutelage.
Yeah, I was going to say, we can't forget about that line of text on the card that doesn't come up very often, but it's going to come up right now, which is pay 6 mana to activate.
Here's another one. Draws another negate.
Might discard the first one of those.
Mills Joe for 2 more. He does discard an extra negate, plays a land, and passes.
Negate at the ready. Last card in Davies' hand. Joe's turn 1 of extra turns.
And remember, I would say that means Kyle only gets 2 more turns, but turn 5 is Joe's, so if he mills him on turn 4, Joe will lose on turn 5.
Correct. Kind of a weird little funny stipulation there. It doesn't come up very often.
I have had situations where, yeah, you always have to watch out when you're mill deck on extra turns because you can't mill them on turn 5. It doesn't actually work. And Joe, remember, his creatures are still asleep from last turn.
Anafenza.
Replacement Anafenza. Here we go, in case an ice is gone.
Gets an enchantment off the board.
Yeah, that's one method of enchantment removal.
Monastery Siege trigger. Anger of the Gods and Flooded Strand are the draw.
2, and only milling 4. Joe has been, his deck has cooperated. Here's another siege trigger, or rather tutelage trigger, and it might be.
Joe might actually get across the finish line here.
It's possible. Yeah, he passes the turn.
Now, it's not a lethal attack.
It's 12 on the attack. With
Correct.
Abzan Charm, that's lethal. Now, there's a negate here.
So it's going to take another pump spell?
Yeah, he's going to need 2 things that pump, but.
Or a Siege Rhino, or just some way to get across the finish line.
Yeah, Kyle, with a lot of chances, didn't hit any of them.
See if Joe's going to cast Abzan Charm on the end step or not. He knows that Kyle has negate in hand.
You have to wonder, and I do wonder going back where Kyle let Joe duress that second tutelage. That might have mattered. There's so few cards in Joe's deck.
And actually, it looks like Joe, if he plays Abzan Charm on the end step, it gets countered, but he has Sorin in his hand.
And then he wins.
And then he wins, so.
Yeah, Joe should have this. Yeah, he hasn't. Kyle has to negate.
Kyle's going to predictably counter this. Joe's going to untap. He'll play Sorin.
Wow.
And that probably gets it done.
Yeah, his creatures get to untap here. Kyle has no cards in hand. Joe just knows he has the win.
Turn 3 of extra turns. Joe going to count. Make sure he doesn't make a mistake
11.
here.
This is 14. Sorin should take it home for him.
There is the Solemn Visitor. The +1, that's going to do it. Joe Lossett going to win this match here over Kyle Davies on turn 3 of extra turns. Abzan aggro, even though it's a slower version, able to get by blue-red tutelage. And for Lossett, who's barely able to eke that one out, he moves on to 4-0 here in Milwaukee.